Kenyans woke up to craziest price hikes, and everybody's looking to government for a response. Schools are closed. People are not able to make it to work. Yet here we stand with no official position from the government in terms of how this situation is being addressed.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me make it clear that what we are seeing is a bit unfortunate. The prices have gone high. That's a fact. And it is really hurting, and it has hit the economy, leave alone even the strike that we see today. The general economic indicators will not be performing as earlier projected, because with high prices there will be high inflation. We will have a problem in interest rates. There may even be a problem going forward with our forex reserves, which may affect the exchange rates, and with all the consequences. So this is a matter that we are really watching closely as a government, and we adjust and make decisions which are informed and not emotional decisions. This is not the time to make emotional decisions. I must repeat. When I attended the spring meeting in April, when actually there were still hopes that the war would stop quickly, but you could see the almost 80% of the discussion around that conference was on the impact of this US-Iran war. This is a war that we have not caused. It's a war that is caused by other people, but because we don't have the ability to stop it, it has to hit our economies. And my concern is that we are trying to solve a global problem applying domestic means, which I think is not appropriate. In my view, I think the strike is completely uncalled for, even though the prices of petroleum products have risen. It's completely uncalled for, because we need to understand why these prices have gone up. Number one, if you take the prices of petroleum products on the 28th of February, 2026, when the war broke out, I will give you just one example. The price of diesel, what they call the Platts price or index price, without adding the premiums, was at 642 per metric ton. Now that has risen today to 1,120 per metric ton. That is an increase of 76% of the prices. Now look at how the prices have changed in Kenya. That diesel, the price from February to now has risen by about 55%. Therefore, it means that already the government has absorbed about over 20% before you bring in the premiums to the price. And the same with petrol. In fact, petrol, the government has even absorbed more. If we were to leave the prices without any intervention as a government, diesel today would be costing us not less than 35 shillings more. And petrol actually would be costing us over 70 shillings more. About 311 would be the price of petrol. So already the government has intervened. There may be calls for more intervention, but we have also to plan it out. Let me just point out this clearly. From April to now, how much has the government spent on trying to cushion or reduce the prices of petroleum products? We have reduced VAT on petroleum products from 16% to 8%. That is a loss of at least 12 billion per month. And that's for the 2 months, it is 24 billion shillings. We have also applied the fuel subsidy. And that fund had 17 billion at the start of this crisis. And this crisis started getting felt in April because we were still using the stock of the previous supplies and also the orders that had already been made. Now, if you take, again, in the month of April, we applied 6.2 billion. And then this month, we have applied 5 billion. In that kitty, we have just about 5 billion left to take us to the end of the financial year. Now, that is another 6.2 plus 5.2, another 11.2. Add to 24 billion, the government has already spent, so to speak, an expenditure of 35 billion in 2 months. And this is a crisis that we don't know when it will end. And so, it is not something to really politicize, in my view. And I understand this very clearly, Latif. When I was coming here and I told some of my friends, 2 of them, that I was coming to discuss, that I've been invited to discuss this fuel crisis. They thought I was making a mistake, that I shouldn't even talk about it. But again, in leadership, you must confront difficult situations and explain to people and explain to Kenyans exactly what is happening, so that we find a solution based on facts and objectively. Instead of just criticizing that nothing is happening, we have done something. We may do more. The government will discuss if we can do more. But you have to balance it off with the entire macroeconomic fundamentals. And I will come to tell you that our budget is also facing a strain. So there is the limit you can go.
What's the limit? What's the limit? Because so far, what you're telling us is by foregoing 24 billion shillings on VAT in those 2 months,
right,
and by, well, spending, this is money, the Petroleum Development Levy, really, I don't say an expenditure in government. This is money that we put into a kitty for such rainy days.
Correct.
Right? In every time we're buying fuel. So it had 17 billion shillings, you've already drawn down 11.2 billion shillings. It's okay. From the 24 billion on VAT, on tax, on direct tax, what is your limit? How much can you push on foregoing tax and cutting down on the expenditure side so that you can cushion Kenyans?
Well, Latif, how much we can go is not something that I would just tell you that we can go this much. We have to sacrifice, and we have to decide as a country the level of sacrifice. You know, when you are in a crisis situation, you sacrifice. And the limit of sacrifice cannot be determined by one day event. Depending on how this crisis continues in the Middle East, we may end up sacrificing more. And you have talked about cutting expenditure. It is easy to say that we can cut expenditure, but a lot of our expenditure lines are so inflexible. I will tell you, even if I take you to the next year's budget, which you have seen, out of the money that we collect, the 3.63 trillion that we are likely to collect, 1.5 is going to go into debt repayment. You have no latitude there. And about another trillion, I mean, am I talking about billion or trillion? 3.6 trillion, 1.5 trillion is going to debt repayment. 1 trillion will go into paying salaries. There is no flexibility there. We have about 4, so that leaves you with 1.1. Now, out of the 1.1, 420 will go to counties. That leaves you with less than 700 billion. And you have not brought in other recurrent expenditure that cannot be delayed. You have not brought in CDF that goes to our constituencies and many others. And that you have not even touched development. And part of that, our development budget is so inflexible because they are donor funded and donor negotiated. And you also have to bring in what we call the counterpart funding for those projects to proceed. So you have to balance all these things. There's areas you can cut a little. And by the way, even in the security sector, that I've been asked sometimes, you put so much money.
You keep adding money.
Yeah, you keep adding money. But look, we are in an environment, we are in a fiscal position in this world that exposes us a lot. We are neighboring Somalia here. You can see there's a crisis in Sudan and the rest of the region. If we don't spend money on security, especially on NIS to gather intelligence, we may not even have an economy the following day. So all these interests have to be balanced. And that is why we said, yes, let's reduce VAT to 8%. We have already absorbed that. We are absorbing it. You are right. In terms of the fuel subsidy, that is the role for which it was meant. But again, you can only go so much because what is in the budget, what had remained at that time was 17 billion. We have already spent 12 billion. We still have a few days left to the end of the financial year. Next financial year, we can over budget in that fund because it is a fund that is created through a statute and the amount allocated for it is defined by law. So you may find that if this war progresses for another 1 year, we will spend so much and we'll exhaust the fund. We'll have to then cut other levies. If we cut other levies, it's going to hurt the budget. So we have to balance off all this. And it is not something that you wake up one day, like another friend of mine woke up in one day and is telling us, remove the 7 shillings. He knows very well. He's a member of parliament. He knows very well that 7 shillings is not available. That money has been securitized, and that is what has unlocked the road construction that we see in this country. Today, you don't hear the public talking about the president is
Road
launching
projects.
roads and they're stalling. Those roads are going on, including the Mau Mau roads that they started. So many of them are now going on. They would have stalled one boy.
Okay, hold
So,
on. So
I want.
I hear you. What you're
yes.
saying is that you are caught between a rock and another rock, and that you are somewhere where you really can't squeeze anything out of it.